Yeah, I'm Ivan. I joined Aragon about 3 months ago to head ecosystem. Week time Aragon, weekend 8. So I'm going to talk about the past, present, and future of Aragon and how we keep helping, and we'll keep helping communities go DAO. There should be a cool video here. Yeah. So I've been told that's like one of the best products we've put out, but all of you probably are familiar with the Fight for Freedom video. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is that to remind that basically what we launched back in 2018 was at the time when the DAO was still fresh and everybody was like, DAOs are dead, nobody's going to be building DAOs. And we believed in that vision, that DAOs are actually extremely valuable. So we decided to start building cool stuff when everybody was giving up on the concept. And I'm sorry, my tech skills are a bit rusty. Okay, so we built the first complete DAO framework at the time, because at the time complete DAO framework was like what now is just a very skeletal core of the tools ecosystem that we have. And it was quite robust but somewhat rigid, which actually was a good thing because it opened up the space, and then as time progressed, a bunch of projects came up, built on top of it, built around it, built aside it as a completely separate project, but it was kickstarting the space. And yeah, it was Aragon Client was the place to build a DAO for a while. And then, meanwhile, in Ethereum universe, fees started exploding. And that, cool. Yeah, so, and that made on-chain governance mostly unfeasible. So there is, the issue of, we have like voter fatigue and generally like disengagement by, back online, cool. Everybody on the stream, you missed a ton of cool conversations that happened here, but you got to be there. So I mean, DAOs are chugging along happily. Everything is peachy, and then Ethereum fees go through the roof, and that's actually in Gwei. It's not in dollars. In dollars, you add like a 10x multiplier on the growth. Yay! But so that like. Basically, on-chain governance became sort of obsolete, and then like that slowed down a lot of the progression of on-chain governance tooling, and like a lot of the projects they just reverted to, let's just have a multi-sig, and like we know each other, we are friends, we're gonna like trust each other and all that, and it's at some point you start building something that's not that robust for the bad times or the malicious actors, and then like Gnosis is doing like an amazing work of like moving forward in that regard through Zodiac as well, because like everybody realizes just multi-sig of 5 friends is not sustainable as a DAO framework. Despite the fees, Aragon remained optimistic, and Govern entered the game. No, it's not about optimism. It's about optimistic governance. My buddy Daniel is going to have a workshop on that later on, so you can get some more insight into it outside. But yeah, so this is like a very lean sort of governance process, which basically assumes consensus by default. So you say, I'm going to go do this, and then if nobody objects, you get it done in like very layman terms, which actually is pretty cool for some use cases. It resembles a lot the way a traditional startup would operate, because you don't really have time for everyone to weigh in on every decision. You decide to do something, and unless it's like really stupid and people just don't do it, you just go ahead and do it. And similar to 2018, when DAOs in general were a bit ahead of its time, I think like this framework is probably a bit early for the space, because it assumes a certain level of DAO maturity, and it also is very useful in certain cases, not in others, and it requires a lot of user education. So like probably give it a year. It's going to get really popular as a governance concept. And we've covered the past and the present, and so how are we thinking about the future? And going back to the Aragon manifesto, it was like the question was, what can we do to have the highest impact on the world? And coordination and governance is too big of a topic for any specific team to handle. And some logos here, like a bunch of amazing teams doing stuff in the space. So we figured out actually the way we can add the most value to the planet, humankind, the space in general, the space in specific, was to focus on accessible composability and making sure that it's easy for people to use those tools and to combine them in the best way to serve their purpose. So it's all about coordination, and it always has been. And in that spirit, in that context, we're extremely happy to be partnering with, this is, by the way, the biggest lineup of partners on a hackathon I've ever seen. So all of us are going to build a ton of cool shit for Web3, DAO tooling, a lot of familiar names. Come hack away. It will be awesome. It's truly the spirit of the space, and if we cannot work together and aim to build the future of human collaboration, we're just hypocrites. So let's not be hypocrites. Let's build cool stuff collaboratively. Thanks. There's a Discord page and a Discord server for this.
Has anyone got any questions? Yeah.
It's going to be online. It's going to run for 7 weeks. The first 3 weeks, it's bounties put forward by the partners. And then the next 4 weeks is when the magic happens. It's the open lane innovation. You do not need to use the stack of the partners. You can do whatever you want, as long as it's relevant for DAOs and it's a complete technical submission. It runs in the race to get the prize pool. Cool. I expect you to see you there now that I pitched it. I've given you one-on-one time. Yeah. You better all show up.
So with that in mind, any more questions?
So for the govern, you had on the slide that it takes a lot of user education. And can you explain what that's about?
Well, I don't know if it's a law. It's once you get it, it seems natural, but because the way people are used to vote and make collective decisions. The way people are used to make collective decisions is typically based on how we pick our representatives in the real world, which is like one person, one vote, and you have some agreements and thresholds about a certain support of a decision that gets made, or the way like corporations make decisions where it's weighted based on your holding within an organization. Whereas this is flipping it around. It's sort of making it more action-prone, and typically you need to also have some safe mechanisms in place to avoid people just doing random things, right? So you can either I schedule an action, and then you find out that I'm draining the treasury to my personal wallet. You object to that, and then it can either go to a vote and go through the traditional process, or it can go through an arbitration mechanism, like we have Aragon Court. There are a few other solutions tackling that use case. But basically, the idea is this action by default is not very intuitive for most people, and you have to give them this sort of explanation, run them through a few edge cases of how is the system protected and secure to get them going on this. Again, Daniel is going to run a workshop on this and other related topics outside in a few hours, so you're welcome to join that. So in half an hour.
So, any more questions for Ivan at Aragon? Don't be shy. Wait.
That's good.
I have a question about if, let's say, we only vote by if you disagree with something. That means that you actually need to give people quite some time to go through different proposals and raise objections. How much time do you think it needs for every proposal to pass through? Would it materially slow down the process of getting proposals got through the governance process?
I love that question because it gives me the opportunity to say the most important thing in the space for me. The tool creators should not be prescriptive about how communities should govern themselves. We're providing the toolbox. We might, show a few examples of in this use case, this team is doing this. But that's that lag between a scheduled decision and the enactment. The community that is using this toolbox should optimize for their specific environment, right? Like us coming there and being oh yeah, you have to wait 3 days before, that's bullshit. Pardon my French, but that's not the way things should be done. The way things should be done is everyone's environment, every community's environment is different, and the culture of that community is different, and the tooling should fit that instead of having really rigid tools that have a very prescriptive way of seeing the world, and then you have to fit that square through the round hole. And then again, Daniel can help you make that trade-off depending on your community context.
Okay, we have a little bit more time for questions.
There's one behind you.
Yeah, great talk. Thank you so much. I was wondering about that last thing you said. I definitely agree with that. If you don't have a kind of DAO-like way of building these features and building these specific frameworks, then how can you really fit each and every DAO? So I'm kind of wondering, how do you, at Aragon, get everyone to participate in that creation and that flexibility and everything? Do you have a contributor program? What kind of the mechanisms you use to really get that innovation from anywhere you find it?
So it's a work in progress, but yeah, we're experimenting with a few tools to enable that contribution in a more open and global setup. It's the common tools in the space. Again, building on that thesis, instead of us trying to re-engineer our own thing and be oh yeah, that's the way to do it. No, a bunch of communities have been extremely successful doing this sort of thing. The two most common tools, Coordinate and SourceCred, everybody's familiar, and then we're trying to find the way they fit for our specific community. But yeah, join the Discord, shoot a message to anyone from the team. We'll get it set up if you want to start contributing. We want you to start contributing, so it's on you now.
All right, we've got about 1 minute left. One last question?
You go.
I'll go. Oh, I got so many questions. You're putting me on the spot now. I do not know which one to ask.
What's top of mind?
Hi. Yeah. How can I get in touch with you if I want to talk to you afterwards directly?
Well, you can find me around. You can find me in the Aragon's Discord. You can find me on Twitter, Capitulation Capital. Sorry, that's Telegram. Twitter, the Taken user. Just find me in the interwebs.
Cool.
I'm lurking in a bunch of DAOs. You can find me there as well. Thanks, everyone. It was a blast.